Welcome to another episode of the Daily Chat Podcast, where we talk about all things awesome and nerdy. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a follow-up episode. Yay! Returning is one of my all-time favorite guests, back from the East Coast, or rather I should say streaming from the East Coast, the angry pizza gay, Meg Fletcher. Say hi, Meg.
Hello.
You were so enthused for your own introduction.
I always am.
So excited. Yay.
Yay.
So Meg, last time we had you on the podcast, we talked about the difference between critics and fans, and when can the fans be wrong and when can the critics be right. So why don't we let you, the special guest of the episode, tell us what we're talking about today.
Can the critics be wrong? Yes,
we decided we'd be fair and go the other way around and talk about the critics and if they can ever be wrong. Because, every once in a while, even though I disagree with the fans, I've gotten to the point in my life where I have a tough time accepting super diehard fans of even the things that I love the most seriously. I know you have too.
Yeah.
I mean, I got to say this, though, because, your favorite, before we get into this, I have to say this, though. Your favorite, without a doubt, media franchise or IP is definitely Harry Potter, correct?
It definitely is.
Yeah, because you see, I'm a bigger fan of Marvel and Star Wars especially, and I don't hate Marvel movie fans so much. I hate the comic book fans just because it's just comic book fans across the board just take things way too seriously. But I don't hear a lot of infighting amongst Harry Potter fans.
Ooh, it's because you're not in it.
That is very true. That is very true. What kind of things do Harry Potter fans fight about? I mean, is it...
it's the same thing. Paper versus movie.
Okay, you know what? That I can understand, believe it or not. I can understand that argument to an extent, believe it or not. But I mean, at the end of the day, are the movies bad interpretations of the books?
No.
No, they're not. I mean, I'm sure the books are... if push comes to shove, I'm sure the books are probably better just because you can fit more detail into them. But I mean... I'm sure it's good enough, you know what I mean?
I hate to shove this in your face as a Star Wars fan. Our prequels that we're getting now are fucking fantastic.
I'm not arguing that at all. I hate those movies. We talked about this the last time. I hate the prequels with a fiery passion. If for any reason
are the prequels the Star Wars fans should have gotten.
Yeah, I mean, the problem with the Star Wars prequels is the fact that they had so much potential and they squandered it.
Yeah, they did. But then you always have those fans that are saying that these prequels, they're arguing as hard as they can to say that they're not canon when J.K. Rowling's writing them herself.
Oh, yeah, no, the only way, obviously the Marvel movies are not canon to anything that happens in the comic books. They're in a completely separate universe, but I mean, yeah, it's why would you want to argue? If J.K. Rowling was writing it, how are they not canon?
Right. That's my argument on it. Their argument is, it's not a book.
I mean,
shut up.
How about you do this? How about you just say that the movies and the books are their own separate universe, and these prequels count towards the movies instead of the books?
I mean, you could.
Yeah. The point is they're canon. They count.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Exactly. All right. So now that we're done talking about that and bitching about the things we love the most, why don't we bitch about the things that the critics hated the most and just get right into it?
Okay.
So the first thing we want to talk about is honestly one of my favorite action movies of all time, The Boondock Saints.
Great movie.
Great fucking movie. In all honesty, it used to be one of my biggest St. Patrick's Day traditions. For many a year, I would watch The Boondock Saints every March 17th.
Nice.
Yeah. Because, why not? The movie opens on St. Patrick's Day. It's about a couple of Irish brothers living in Boston. We're basically from Boston. Basically. Not really, but I mean, we're close enough. You're Irish. I'm Irish. I like drinking. You used to like drinking.
Like a diabetic Mrs. Cake.
Yeah, except for diabetics have insulin.
Yeah.
So, at any rate, here's what we want to talk about. We're going to get into this. We're going to basically be talking about, obviously, like movies that the critics hated but the fans loved. And honestly, this is going to be an episode just to show that we are fair and balanced, like our friends over at Fox and Friends. No, but we are actually trying to show that we're fair and balanced. Yeah, we just want to show that there are times where we actually disagree with the critics. Wouldn't you agree with that, Meg? Like, there are times where we want to tell the critics just to go fuck themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are going to be a few huge go fuck yourselves, in my opinion.
Yeah, exactly. And right now, as I'm looking at it on the tomato meter, because like we did before, just so that we were fair, we're going to compare everything from on Rotten Tomatoes. That the tomato meter for Boondock Saints right here is at a 20%, but the audience score is at a 91. That's a huge gap.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like 70%. That's like 70 percentile points.
And you just want to look at the critics here and say, how?
Honestly, what I think it is, though, and this is an example of one of those movies that, like, the critics, they're looking for films. Like, they're looking for, like, big art pieces. And, like, one I think they forget a lot of the times is, like, sometimes people just want to make a movie that's just pure escapism for the sake of pure escapism, you know? And here's my thing with the Boondock Saints. So I could possibly understand the arguments because we looked at a couple of these reviews beforehand. One of them basically saying this one right here coming from the AV Club, written by Nathan Rabin way back in January 21st of 2000. Opening line is less a proper action thriller than a series of gratuitously violent set pieces strung together with only the sketchiest semblance of a plot. The Boondock Saints is clearly designed to appeal to the heartless armchair sadist. What's wrong with that?
Right?
What is wrong with that?
Call me a heartless armchair sadist then.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to be right, goddammit. It's just a matter of, like, look, I get it. Like, I not every movie can be fucking Citizen Kane. You know what I mean?
Nah.
Like, the way I kind of look at it is, like, my entertainment is, like, yes, I do like thought-provoking stuff, but every once in a while, it's like, Jesus Christ, I don't want to think, you know? Like, I just want to be entertained, you know what I mean? It's kind of like, because you know what it's like? It's kind of like how, you know, like, when BioShock first came out, everyone was like, oh my God, this is finally the video game that's going to, like, present art, that's going to solidify video games as being an art form. Then that game came out back in like 2006, 2007. Flash forward to 2016, Doom comes out. And you know why I loved Doom so much, Meg?
Why?
Because there was no goddamn plot at all. It was just go forward and kill demons from hell. That was it. That's all I wanted.
There's nothing wrong with that.
No, there's nothing wrong with that at all. I mean, we could go off on a tangent about, like, the landscape of video games on another podcast. We've done that a few times. But, I mean, the point I'm trying to get at, though, is, like, there's absolutely nothing wrong with a little bit of mindless fun every once in a while. So the point I'm trying to get at is going back originally is, like, though these guys might have valid points in saying that that this movie is not art, because I will definitely agree with it that it's probably not art. It's just, like, lighten up a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, let's just have some fun and, like, let's just see shit that we can't see. Like, what is it? He attacks after killing a pair of Russian mobsters in the characteristically realistic scene involving Flannery leaping off a tall building directly onto a confused thug's head. Hundreds of feet below, the brothers decide to execute all of Boston's criminals in a series of brutally effective massacres. And they were awesome.
They were awesome. It's like, wasn't there another critic, or was it the same guy that was kind of like shit talking William Dafoe?
Yeah, I mean, look, here's the thing, and you're a lesbian, like, so clearly you're deeper into the LGBT community than I am, and they're saying that equally infuriating and jealous of the brothers' flair for bloodshed is a flamboyantly gay FBI agent, William Dafoe, in an enjoyably demented performance, who can't seem to decide whether blah 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 blah. Like, here's the thing, I didn't think he was that gay until the end when he cross-dresses. Oh yeah, by the way, spoilers for anybody who hasn't seen these movies.
Also, I couldn't even remember him being gay until I just read that. But it's been a long time since I see this movie. I couldn't even remember him being gay.
Oh no, that was a big thing. That was a big thing. In fact, there's a scene in it where after the brothers kill like 6 of the Russian mobsters in a hotel room, or 9 Russian mobsters, excuse me, in a hotel room, the phrase they're looking for is the guy who runs the mafia is always referred to as the fat man. One of the Boston cops says the man, and that's a word I normally don't allow on this podcast, but I'm quoting it. It's to fit the point of what I'm trying to say. He says the man, and then of course Willem Dafoe's character goes like, "Well, Freud was right," basically saying Freudian slip. Like they all know he's gay. It's Boston. It's the 90s. It was a very politically incorrect time in a very politically incorrect city.
Yes.
Yes.
Like I said, it's been so long since I see this movie, and now that we're talking about it, I'm gonna have to go and watch it again because I did enjoy it the first time, and I know that I'll enjoy it even more than now.
Yeah, I mean, well, first off, it's got Daryl in it.
Right.
Being another badass.
I'm pretty sure that was actually like the second movie I ever saw him in.
What was the first? I think that's honestly, he's one. Like, I mean, I'm not trying to insult his career or anything like that. It's just I saw him in this movie, and then I never saw him again until The Walking Dead.
He was in Blade 2.
He was in Blade 2. I never saw Blade 2.
You know what? He was in a movie not a really long time ago, but long enough time ago, and I think it was a British film. Where he made out with Alan Rickman.
Nice.
Yes, and I can actually send you that video because it's you don't know you need to see it until you've seen it.
I'm actually all set with that. No offense to Alan Rickman, Norman Reedus, or the gay community. I just don't give a shit to see those two make out with each other.
It was so random. It came across my screen one day. I wasn't even looking for it.
You're a liar. You were totally looking for it.
I didn't even know it had existed.
And now you did. And then you found out, and I'm sure you were all kinds of happy.
Yeah, it was a good thing. But anyways, back to William Dafoe. You cannot, he's enjoyably
Willem Dafoe plays unhinged very well.
That's what I was trying to get at. Yes, one of his performances is enjoyably demented.
I mean, like, look, not for nothing. I know these movies hold a lot of hold special places in these people's hearts. But if you go back and rewatch the original Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie, good Lord, that movie has aged like shit.
Oh yeah, but William Dafoe pulls off Green Goblin like great.
I'm going to be honest with you. I think as time has gone on, it's become a pretty bad Green Goblin, but it's become an enjoyably bad Green Goblin. Yeah, it's hilarious. Like, if anything, it's hilarious. I mean, first off, sidebar here. The best part of all the Spider-Man movies, including the third one, is J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson. In fact, if anything, I want them to get J.K. Simmons back to play J. Jonah Jameson in the MCU. I really fucking do.
That's the only recasting that I would support.
Get me pictures of Spider-Man!
He was great. He was great. I could literally close my eyes and see and hear the animated version from the 90s when I watched it.
Yeah, but that wasn't J.K. Simmons. Right, but like all I'm trying to say though is like he perfectly encapsulated the role of J. Jonah Jameson more so than any of the other actors in the movies did. Did a better job at being J. Jonah Jameson than Tobey Maguire did at being Spider-Man or Peter Parker. And you know what? Like I just recently saw somebody do a review about those 3 movies and like basically saying how they're all worse than you remember. It's like James Franco does not really give the greatest of performance particularly in the second movie, but most of those performances in most of those movies, he does not give the greatest performance.
No, so I didn't even really, as animated Spider-Man fan from the 90s again, I didn't even, like, I liked those movies, but I didn't love them.
You know what I think it is? I think I loved them back in the day just because I was such a huge Spider-Man fan.
It was all you had.
This was the days before I discovered Deadpool. So this was also the days before Marvel got their shit together and started making bomb movies.
I love how we can all trace everything back to fucking comic books, because I'm
Right.
pretty sure the next thing that we're going to talk about is going to trace back to a comic book conversation.
Oh, it definitely will, but we're not done talking about the
I
Boondock
know.
Saints here. So look, here's the thing. Like they're saying, like a lot of the critics I've been seeing here, they're all just saying like how it's just all style over substance. Again, like, duh. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of like how when people had a problem with Kick-Ass 2, they started saying, "Oh, like it's not that deep a movie." I'm like, it's called Kick-Ass. Like, what the hell do you expect to come of this movie?
You know,
Like,
I guarantee you, if Boondock Saints had Michael Bay's name on it, it would have gotten a higher fucking rating.
I don't know about that because Michael Bay's movies tend to get poor reviews from the critics. Like, hold on, what was the most recent Transformers movie?
I don't know, but the first one got like over 50%, which is more than Boondock Saints.
Hold on, real quick. Transformers videos, Transformers. The last night that got a 15%.
Got a 15%? I didn't see that last night.
On the most recent one, that's a 15% by the critics and a 44% by the fans. Transformers, it has a 57% from the critics and an 85% from the fans. The very first one that came out back in like 2007.
Yeah.
I mean, what is it? Like I think it's like 60%. Anything under 60% means it's rotten on Rotten Tomatoes, right?
I think so.
Yeah, so the moral of the story I'm trying to get at here is it did okay. It did okay. You know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But, you know, you look at the thing about that movie, about the Boondock Saints, though, that's different from the Transformers movies, though, is people actually listened to the critics, and it didn't take on a life of its own until it came out on home release.
No, it didn't. We call that a cult classic.
Exactly. And it's a damn good cult classic, in my opinion. In fact, you know what? I can't wait for March 17th to roll around again.
I think that might be when I'll watch it myself.
I'm going to get myself a nice 12-pack of Guinness and some Baileys and some Jameson so I could just slug back car bombs.
I'll have some mashed potatoes.
While I watch two Irish brothers blow up half of Boston.
I'll have some mashed potatoes.
That's Irish enough. Irish enough. I'll allow it.
Okay.
So overall, though, like I bet you money, though, if we actually sat through and sifted through all of these reviews, everything that they say they don't like about these movies
is everything we like about them.
Is exactly like, hold on, right here. I'm looking at another one written by the Boondock Saints. Who wrote this one? Written by... Where did his name go? Oh, I'm on cinemacrazed.com, dating all the way back to 2010. A Felix Vasquez opening line, watching the Boondock Saints is something of an experience and one that I'm actively working on forgetting as soon as humanly possible. Director Troy Duffy's action trashapalooza is much too mind-numbingly moronic to be taken as an earnest effort for an indie action cinema, and much too stern to be considered camp garbage. Wow, you can clearly sense director and writer Troy Duffy working creatively to portray every single character in this film as something to be taken with a straight face and a shiver. But in the end, none of it works for the better. Like, dude, shut up. Like,
these reviews are harsh.
I know, they're like way too harsh. It's just, for me,
reason.
It's like, look, I get it. Like, again, I understand this movie isn't exactly high art. I get that argument. In fact, I agree with that argument. But you know what? As far as I'm concerned, the action scenes were well shot. The characters were fun. The humor, for the most part, was actually enjoyable. And on top of that, too, man, it's just like the story in and of itself, the plot in and of itself moved along okay with like minimal issues. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So as far as I'm concerned, that's what makes a movie solid. Just as long as like the script is solid, the characters are likable, and it's shot well, I can deal with it. You know, no matter how unartistic it is, quote unquote.
Listen to this one. This one is another really fucking rough one. Where do I start? The Boondock Saints has an air of homoerotica that's evident enough. Its two main characters, who are brothers but bear such a strong connection, they often look like a couple. No, they don't.
Oh my god. Okay, so this kind of ties in with something that like, and this is no offense to the LGBT community at all. This is just something I personally take grief with. I really, this is just people looking for gay when there really isn't gay. And my big thing with this though too is like all those shippers that want, you know, Cap and Bucky to get together in the MCU just because of like how strong their connection is. Like, you people clearly don't understand what a bromance is. Like, I'm sorry. It's only because Cap has made it very clear he wanted to bang Peggy Carter, and then he also made it clear that he wanted to bang Peggy Carter's niece.
This is just, I understand what you're saying because as a gay person, I do some kind of reaching like that.
I know you do.
Well,
I know you do, but you do it with a grain of salt.
Yeah, I do. But this, I do it for fun most of the time.
I know. I'm talking about the people that are like legitimately like. You see, look at him. It's like that scene where like in Civil War, which I know you still don't like, but there's that scene in Civil War right before, as soon as they touch down in Siberia, and like Bucky and Cap like have this little moment where they're like reliving their days, like growing up in the streets of Brooklyn back in the 30s or whatever, and like Cap puts his hand on Bucky's shoulder, and everyone's like, "See, gay love." It's like, no, dude, they're brothers. No,
right, if you can't put your hand on your friend's shoulder, then maybe that you need to reevaluate your own sexuality.
Exactly. I mean, and that here's the thing though, it's mostly gay people shipping that.
Yeah, it really is.
So does that mean like every time you put your hand on another woman's shoulder, you're automatically attracted to her?
No.
I mean, hell, based off of this, sometimes I hug my brother when I see him. Does that mean I want to bang my brother? No, absolutely not, because that's gross.
Right.
And I'm not gay, but mostly because it's gross.
This review is garbage.
Yeah. Who wrote that one? From what website?
Cinema Crazed.
Oh, is this the same one? By Felix Vasquez?
It is! Oh my god.
Yeah. So
okay.
Okay, so you apparently like read further down. But
yeah, I must
anyway,
have, sorry.
I think we've made our point across. We've been talking about this for like 15 minutes now. Let's just move on to the next one, which arguably launched the movie career of one Ryan Reynolds.
I think it did launch. This and Waiting launched his career.
Well, I think he got Waiting because of this role, but at any rate, the point I'm trying to get at is we're talking about Van Wilder. You know, the movie that pretty much said where he was able to look at two guys and a girl in a pizza shop and say, "See ya, bye, don't need to do this anymore." You know what I mean? But by the way, I'm also looking at the pictures of this, and there's one picture right here of Ryan Reynolds wearing a long sleeve shirt under a short sleeve shirt, and I just can't help but think how fucking 1999, 2000 that is.
Yeah, it is. I love it.
Oh, and you know what the best part is too? I'm looking at it further. He's got a chain connected to his wallet.
Anyway, I just watched this movie recently, and you can tell that it is very, 1999 is 2000, because there's just things that they have gotten away with in this movie and lines that they got away with in this movie that would not fly today.
Such as? Some
really, I watched it recently, but not that recently. I can't, like, off the top of my head. But, very, very sexist, very,
Oh, yeah, of course.
Very 1990s, and I loved every second of it. I'm not gonna lie.
It came out in 2000. It came out in 2002. Yeah. So this just might be a case of people who just don't have a sense of humor, or, like I said, this is like the late night. Remember how like throughout the 90s there just wasn't a whole lot of political correctness, or was there actually? I can't remember.
No, there wasn't. It's in the last like 10 years kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Since like the birth of the internet. Ugh.
Pretty much.
But anyway, I'm looking at this one right here from rte.ie. Okay, whatever. Here's a review. Smarter and cooler than the average schemer. So just why does Van Wilder, played by Ryan Reynolds, want to stay in Coolidge College forever? He's been serving as the campus Mr. Fix-It for 7 years now, procuring everything from girls to exam papers and wasting his father's money, played by Matheson, in the wildest ways possible. Always one gag ahead of the authorities, Wilder is forced to become a party organizer when his father cuts off his tuition fees. But having conquered one major problem, he ends up with another. A college hack played by Tara Reid, who has decided to do an article on him. Okay, yeah. With last year's American Pie 2 so tame, it seems like an eternity since a comedy was willing to go for broke with broady gags. And while it's nowhere near Road Trip or Kingpin, I love that movie. Anyone who grew up watching Animal House or Porky's on video will get some laughs out of Van Wilder. It's raunchy, over the top, it's raunchy, over the top, and in Reynolds has their apparent to Chevy Chase's smirk. There are scenes involving heat bulldogs, amorous grainings, mnemonic cheerleaders, and apocalyptic laxatives. Though it's arguable whether it any would work if the camera didn't have Reynolds to point at. So what they're basically saying, and this is kind of like one of those things, we're basically just saying like Ryan Reynolds saved the movie because he's a pretty boy.
No, I don't even think he had to be a pretty boy because he's just fucking. If Ryan Reynolds was ugly, he'd still be hilarious.
He would. It's just, yeah, he probably would still be. But director Becker loses the harebrained momentum somewhat by bringing in the romance between Reynolds and Reed and showing that Van really has a heart of gold. But despite the slush factor, he still makes sure that there are jokes all the way to the credits and the knowing cameos from original Animal House pupil Tim Matheson and Breakfast Club detention giver Paul Gleason show a film that knows how to hustle in the nostalgia market. Compared to recent, all right, this one isn't as scathing as I thought it would be.
Yeah, none of the ones that I'm coming across are really that scathing. I mean, this one that I'm reading right here, it kind of like, it goes through the whole movie, like the ones that you just did. But then it says, all things considered, National Lampoon's Van Wilder just doesn't fit the National Lampoon brand. Well, whoever wrote this has never seen fucking Animal House, has never seen fucking.
They've always been about the fart and sexist jokes. In fact, there's the biography of the guy who wrote National Lampoon on Netflix called A Futile and Stupid Gesture.
Mm-hmm.
I watched it. First off, kudos to them for actually making a biography about a guy, spoilers, about a guy who commits suicide into a fucking comedy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like, here's the thing. That movie was a titty magazine when it first came out. So it was like joke about the president. Here's some boobs, more jokes about the president, jokes about life, titties. Like, what the fuck? Like, how can you tell me that's not part of the National Lampoon brand?
Right? Disagree.
So that, yeah. So I'm looking at one of them right here. Here's a short one, and it just says ... Tara Reid plays a college journalist, but she looks like a 6-time winner of the Miss Hawaiian Tropic pageant. So I don't know what she's doing in here. I hate this.
Yeah.
I really hate this. And that's by Richard Roper.
Ooh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, so the point I'm trying to get at is this. Like, I don't like the argument of she's too pretty for this role. I don't understand what that means. I literally have no idea what that means. Yeah.
You literally wrote a 2000s movie about college. You wrote it's a movie about college in the 2000s, late 90s. When movies about sororities and college were a dime a dozen.
Exactly. But it's also like, what is she doing here? How about the fact that she's hot and they wanted to get asses in the seats?
That too.
Yeah. But there's the other thing though too. It's like, it's college, like, and it's supposed to be like a really big university. Like, you mean to tell me that there isn't one woman who looks like Tara Reid who went to a college and wanted to become a journalism? There wasn't one. I call bullshit on that.
Let me tell you, if National Lampoon decided to use all of Tara Reid in all of their movies in the 90s and 2000s, and they did use her a few times, but if they decided to use her in all the movies, they would have made a lot more money.
What other movie was she in with National Lampoon? And don't say the American Pie movies because those weren't National Lampoon, I don't think.
They were.
Okay,
They?
hold on real quick here. I gotta laugh at this right here, right now, because I just clicked on Tara Reid, and this is something we probably should have talked about in the last podcast. But I clicked on Tara Reid in what do you call it? In Rotten Tomatoes. It says right here, highest rated movies she's been in. The number one highest rated movie. Guess. Just guess. I dare you. Guess.
Number one highest rated movie that Tara Reid has ever been in.
You'll never guess.
Sharknado.
Yes! It has an 82% from the critics with a 33% from the fans.
Can I tell you something?
Yeah?
I love Sharknado.
Oh! this is a very, like, catch-22 thing for me because I'm going to be honest with you, like...
It's so bad, it's good.
Right? But it's one of those things where, like, I don't know if they're supposed to be, like, taking it... Did you know, by the way, that there's, like, actually, like, a sci-fi shared movie universe? Because after Sharknado, Sci-Fi Channel just went full ham and started making, like, really bad, like, monster crossover movies. Like, they had, like, scorpion sharks or something like that.
I heard something about this, actually, but I never, like, looked into it.
And I saw a clip where who's in Sharknado? Who's the lead actor of Sharknado? Ian Zeringer.
Okay.
Yeah, he shows up in scorpion spiders, and they're just like, "Dude, can you help me? We got to get rid of these like scorpion sharks." And he's like, "Scorpion sharks? I got a tornado made out of sharks I need to worry about." But it's just so stupid. Like here's the thing, like Sharknado is really one of those movies where I don't know if it was meant to be that bad. I'm assuming it was meant to be that bad. Yeah. But the thing is, though, it's like everyone's performance in that movie is just so wooden.
Well, first of all, if you go through anything that was ever made by the channel of sci-fi, all right, TV shows and movies, all the acting is like that, and it's kind of like, and here's how I like to describe it.
I defend hate to cut you off real quick, but I got to say I defend the show Dark Matter. I will defend the show.
I kind of defend Winona Earp, but okay.
That is why you fail. But anyway, go on.
But whenever I'm watching a movie or a show that's on sci-fi, I always feel like I'm watching a porno, but the sex never happens.
That's probably the best line I've ever heard about sci-fi. Other than the fact that it's been like 10 years now, and they stopped spelling their name right.
They did. That's exactly how I feel when watching sci-fi.
That's kind of like, it's kind of like, I think it was like Penn Jillette made the joke about how like 10, 15 years ago when Korn covered Another Brick in the Wall by Pink Floyd. He's like, it's a little ironic when a band is uttering the phrase, "We don't need no education." They can't even spell the name of their own band right.
Yeah, it's like that.
So anyway, back to National Lampoon's vein. Like, first off, let's be real here. National Lampoon has never necessarily been known for making high art.
No, but they make mostly great movies. Bandcamp had to stop. Bandcamp should never have happened.
I never saw Bandcamp. Hold on real quick here. Just for the laugh of it, because it's the National Lampoon movie it gets compared to the most. Let's just see what the critics had to say. Okay. So, and this is a weird thing for me because like it's got a 91 from the critics. National Lampoon's Animal House.
Animal House has 91 from the critic. Well, actually, you know what? That makes sense. When was Animal House made?
Like late 70s, I think.
Late 70s. We're gonna follow the line of political correctness.
Yeah, that's kind of true.
If Van Wilder was made in the 70s, it would have gotten the same rating.
Exactly, it probably would have. It honestly probably would have. And like, this is just one of those things where like I understand why political correctness is there, and as a comedian, speaking bluntly, I don't hate it entirely. Right. Like I understand like there are people who've felt marginalized, and there are people who felt like they've been underrepresented or whatever, like, you know, felt like they've been treated harshly. And I understand that, like, you know, there's certain words that, you know, there are certain attitudes that need to go the way of the dinosaur. Mm-hmm. However, have a fucking sense of humor about things, people.
Yeah, we all need to laugh about history.
Like, you know, it's not necessarily that though, but it's like, you know what one of my all-time favorite movies is of ever, period?
Mhm.
It's what's the one with written by Mel, the Western by Mel Brooks, Blazing Saddles.
Yeah, I never saw it.
Okay, that movie couldn't be made today, period. Full stop. End of discussion. Because of the overabundance of white people dropping the N-word. But it's also one of those things, though, where it's like, you gotta keep in mind, like, first off, not only was that movie made in the mid-70s, number two, it was written by Richard Pryor, a black man.
Mm-hmm.
And number three, it takes place in the Wild West during, like, the 1860s. Where even the Irish were ostracized.
It's true.
So don't you dare tell me a village full of white people, when they get a black sheriff, that they would be running around calling him the N-word. Like, don't you dare tell me that.
It's true.
So it's just a matter of, like, it's just like, I understand, like, we've progressed and everything like that, and yes, sometimes these words need to go away, but you know what, another recent thing of this whole thing we're talking about that's come under fire is how Eminem on his newest album has started dropping that word again.
Oh yeah, you text me about this.
Yeah.
I would just
You said it best. It's like he's used it so many times, he's like grandfathered in at this point.
Yeah, and shut the fuck up. That album was amazing.
That's another thing that the critics seem to be hating that the fans love. Yes, like the Rolling Stone magazine is trashing it, but Rolling Stone shoots itself in the foot like every Tuesday. So
yeah, they always have. The album was amazing. Shut the fuck up, Rolling Stone. End of story. Period.
Well, here's my other thing though too that I got to mention. It's because back when Eminem started blowing up, do you remember like the 99, 2000 Emmys when he shocked the world by performing a duet of Stan with Elton John?
I do remember that.
Who was like pretty much who was like the second gay celebrity after like Liberace.
Yeah, and it was kind of like after that, we were kind of like, yeah, okay, whatever.
My favorite part about that though is just the fact that they asked Elton John like how he feels about Eminem using that word, and he says nobody is paying attention to the context of what Eminem is saying. And also, like, people need to have a sense of humor about themselves. Like, yes, that word is hurtful, but it doesn't have to be hurtful all the time.
No.
And he's not even talking about gay people himself. He's talking about himself. He's not even using that word to address gay people. He's just using it the way everybody in the 90s grew up associating that word, which was just saying you're an annoying sack of shit. Pretty
much.
Yeah. I'm going to have to censor that word a lot, but whatever, because I normally don't like having that word on, but you're clearly cool with it, so.
Yeah, no, it's kind of like, we took it back.
we took it back. Sure you did. But that's just a great. Hold on, let's actually look this up because we weren't originally going to talk about it, but we might as well delve into the realm of music. Kamikaze reviews. Like on Spin. Let's see what Spin Magazine has to say about it.
All right, so this album, Kamikaze, is probably the first rap album that I've listened to cover to cover in the last 8-10 years or so.
Mm-hmm.
I loved it. I loved every second of it.
Headline. Article headline from Spin Magazine, spin.com. Eminem is still wasting his talent on thin-skinned antagonism. Here's my thing about that. Like the last couple Eminem albums I've listened to, it's not that they were bad or anything like that. It's just, they didn't have that fire. And like,
no.
For me, when it comes to this album, like I feel like Eminem is just, I got this very strong vibe that it was just Eminem saying, I tried to be nice. I tried so hard to be nice, but y'all didn't want it, so fine, I'm going to be mean again, but don't say I didn't warn you.
Mm-hmm. You know what, when Eminem's last album came out, and I was like, oh.
I didn't even listen to it.
I listened to the 2 tracks on it, and I was like, oh, he sounds washed up, he sounds old, this is terrible, like, nothing about it was good to me. And then, I got to listen to this one before Candace did, and I said to Candace, right before I got her to listen to it, I was like, remember what I said about the last album, how bad and washed up he sounded? She's like, yeah. I was like, he was fucking saving it for this one.
Here's the funny thing. I got to read more into the history about it. But from what I gathered, he wasn't quote unquote saving it for this album. Like he wrote this. It feels like he saw all the reviews of the last album, and he just got so pissed off that he was able to write 45 minutes worth of music. He was able to write like 12 tracks of music
Is that what
in the span of like 4 or 5 months, which is amazing. It's absolutely astounding that he was able to come out with albums that quickly, and it's like it became like the number one album in the world.
It's really good.
And while we're talking about this too, I never heard of Machine Gun Kelly until this album.
I
never
heard of him in my life. And you want to know what else, dude? This album, again, I listened to it cover to cover, and it said everything that I feel about today's rap music.
It's awful.
He fucking said it all.
Yeah, he basically did. Like, I got to listen to the album again. It's been a couple of weeks since I've listened to it, but yeah. And like I said too, it's one of those things where like it's just further proof to me that rap music was at its best in like the 90s when everybody was just angry.
Yeah.
Like it's one of those things where like I think about it and it's like it totally makes sense that how and why nu metal became a thing in the late 90s, early 2000s when rap and heavy metal were starting to merge with each other, because both those genres of music are at their best when people are angry.
It's true.
Like, remember, like, you know how, like, hair metal? Remember how happy hair metal sounded? Nobody listens to hair metal anymore.
You're right.
There's a reason why I went the way of the dodo. But hold on, let's see what the opening line. Jesse Fairfax of Spin Magazine, opening paragraph. As a white guy in hip-hop, a once marginalized demographic that is now bordering on omnipresent, Eminem has always been focused on earning respect from his peers and from an audience looking for reasons to shun his very existence. 16 years ago, he declared that a plague and platinum status if I'm not the baddest. Today, despite healthy record sales, the consensus is that he's more like the worst. Exactly the thing he said he didn't want to become. Eminem's surprise release. Let me start that over again. Eminem released his new album Kamikaze last week, seemingly intent on catching the world off guard. He spends a significant chunk of his 10th album lashing out at people who didn't like his 9th one, last year's Revival, which sloppily augmented his multisyllabic verses with hooks and production that aimed for stadium rock glory. When he's not going after the critics, he sets his sights on younger, more currently stylish rappers. The album opens with The Ringer, a 5-minute barrage against both parties. Over a gloomy beat, M weaves in and out of culprits mocking Lil Pump's Gucci Gang, which is a terrible fucking song. I don't care. Awful. And calling out Lil Xan, Lil Yachty, Machine Gun Kelly, and Iggy Azalea. Though as a music critic, he lacks incisiveness. He succeeded by sheer virtuosity and force of personality. Maybe he's angry that the aforementioned rappers don't have to try as hard as he did. Yeah, no, well, he paved the way for those guys, for starters.
Right? Those guys should, like...
I'm not going to lie to you. If I made a music album and I got insulted by Eminem, that would be almost on par as, like, if Weird Al wanted to parody one of my songs.
Actually, you want to know what? Those guys should go back and take a look at what you were talking about a couple minutes ago and look at Eminem performing with Elton John.
Yeah.
Learn some respect.
Yeah. Well, it's just like... First off, I didn't even listen to all of Machine Gun Kelly's response to it. I just remember hearing like the first.
Fired first.
Well, technically, he fired second. It's just like I watched the music video. What was it called? Rap Devil or whatever it is. Like his flow is awful.
Yeah, it's a pretty bad song.
It's because you know what it's like. Because I'm a bigger rock guy. To me, it's kind of like. Comparing Eminem to Machine Gun Kelly is kind of just like their flows. It's kind of like comparing Kirk Hammett to, say, your 15-year-old brother who just started learning how to play guitar.
Exactly.
There's no comparison. One is infinitely better than the other.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't understand
And
that.
Eminem
Like, I
came
don't
back
actually,
at him with Killshot, though.
like 3 days later, and Killshot was what it was, and like Machine Gun Kelly's not going to respond to it.
No, how can you?
No. And it was also one of those things, though, too, where, like, I think, like, one of the opening lyrics, like, you don't do anything special, you just read from a dictionary. It's like, yeah, no shit. That's how you learned how to use
Right,
words,
motherfucker.
dumbass.
Have you even ever picked up a dictionary?
Do you even know what a dictionary really is?
Yikes.
Like, so, yeah, it's just like, let's look up and see if we can find fan reviews for, or let's see what Metacritic has to say about it. Actually, hold on. Metacritic. A similar aggregate website to Rotten Tomatoes. The critics are actually giving it a 62%. That's based on 16 critics. The users, however, the fans seem to be giving it a 7.8.
Percent?
No, just a 7.8 out of 10.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so critics. These critics right here don't seem to be too harsh. Like, one guy's giving it an 80, another guy's giving it an 80, a 75. The Guardian is giving it a 6, giving it a 60. Kamikaze is a variable flawed album. The hooks are nothing special. When it's on fire, however, it really crackles blazing. Da, 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 da. So these don't seem as bad as before. But let's see what good old-fashioned Rolling Stone magazine had to say about it. Eminem lashes out at the rap game on Kamikaze. They give it a 2.5 stars. Let's see what Steven Kaiser, I think that's how you pronounce his name. He's relapsed, he's recovered, he's been revived, and now he's back again and again. His second album is less than a year. Kamikaze is the latest and most disappointing entry to Eminem's never-ending encore, a boot camp of naughty, joyless, lumbering ragers aimed largely at a rap game that's passing him by.
I'm sorry, whoever fucking wrote this was in diapers in the 90s and doesn't deserve a job at this moment.
Let's see if we can find some information on Mr. Kaiser. There's no direct information. This is the only article he's written for Rolling Stones magazine, by the way, at least their website.
Diapers in the 90s and has never
Probably.
done.
And here's my thing about, like, what do you call it?
A dictionary is either.
Probably not. And here's my thing about Rolling Stone magazine. They praise my favorite band, Humphreys McGee. They praise them, and like every time I do it, I take it in with a grain of salt because it's like, yeah, but you also put Sonara on the cover of your magazine and tried to paint him as a fucking victim.
Yeah.
Yeah, he fucking bombed Boston. Fuck you. Like, after that moment, I just lost all respect for the magazine. Let's see here. Perfunctorily, he loads reams of names and multisyllabic filler into his random rhyme generator and sets the timer for 46 minutes. The rhymes have more grace and torque than the scream raps of his last LP, 2017's Revival. I never listened to Revival. But that doesn't make them, that's me, who's never listened to it, not this guy. But that doesn't make them much more enjoyable. Words are relentlessly contorted, stretched, chewed, and spat just for sport. Eminem styles himself as a neglected virtuoso, but everything here, his insistency, his low voltage shock raps, his crusade against mumble rappers feels forced. Okay, no one's crusade against mumble rappers should feel forced. It's awful.
It's terrible.
It's terrible music.
It's not music. It's fucking
like, I mean, they didn't get a lot of credit for it back in the day, but there's a track off of the Dropkick Murphys album, The Warrior's Code. 2006 is The Warrior's Code. It's a track called The Walking Dead. That song's all about how they hate emo music. In fact, the chorus of the song just goes, "What's so new about what you're saying? It's just a new generation with the same sad song."
I know that song. Okay.
Yeah.
It did.
It was awful. In fact, we're now in what they're calling the era of emo rap, which
is that what they're calling it? I love
yes,
it.
that's like what you're posting. You like Post Malone?
No, I love what they're calling it.
Oh, you love what they're calling it. Yeah.
Emo rap.
Yeah, because I just saw Todd in the Shadows. He did a review of a Post Malone and song, and I can't remember who he compared it to, but he did what's that song by Post Malone?
I don't know anything about Post Malone.
Yeah, don't. All I just know about him is my new favorite picture. My new favorite meme revolving around Post Malone is a picture of Lisa Simpson standing in front of a projector, looking very pissed off and vindictive. And on the projector, it reads, "Post Malone looks like the 0.01% of germs Lysol doesn't kill." But
Yes.
yeah, like personally, I think it's just a matter of this whole thing with Eminem. It's just people, saying that, saying that the rap world is leaving him behind. It's like, dude, he paved the way for a lot of these people. In fact, I'm sure he's like, look at Machine Gun Kelly. I dare you to tell me that he was not inspired by Eminem.
Now he knows how the Beatles felt.
What do you mean, how the Beatles felt?
I said, now we know how the Beatles felt.
Well, I don't get it. What do you mean exactly? Because they were on top of the world always and forever.
True. I don't think I'm... Never mind. Cut that out.
Well, I mean, Rolling Stone magazine also has a bad reputation for what do you call it? Trashing. What do you call it? Trashing albums that eventually went on to become classics. Like they trashed Led Zeppelin 4. They trashed Jimi Hendrix's "Are You Experienced?" Like,
it's always going to be like this. It's always going to be the young people not going to remember the people that came before them. That
Yeah, I'm just
set the way for them.
I'm just simply saying, like, it's annoying to me right now that there's this going on. Like,
it's a lack of respect.
It's not just a lack of respect. It's just a matter of people don't seem to like it because it's too truthful. Like, that's my problem with the world today is the fact that people don't like looking at a mirror.
You're right.
It's like, don't get me wrong, like, I tend to be a pretty liberal person, but even I have to admit, there are some stupid things liberals say and do.
There are. That's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah, especially considering the fact that we're running out of time real quick. But, I mean, I think it's safe to say that, like, based on everything we've talked about National Lampoon's Van Wilder, we've talked about the Boondock Saints, and now we've talked about Eminem's Kamikaze. We're very much like, we don't agree with the critics on this one at all, on any of these at all.
No, they're all fucking wrong.
Yeah, they're very fucking wrong. Like, I don't understand how you could think that this album is, how these movies are bad. Like, I mean, not artistic. Yes, you can argue that with me all you want, but just mindless entertainment. Come on, shut the fuck up and just watch the movie.
Maybe, is there a high possibility that the critics are taking themselves too seriously?
There is that possibility. I mean, they do have to be fair, it is kind of their job.
True.
The point I'm trying to get at, though, I think what we were trying to do with this, in this day and age, everyone's a fucking critic.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, what are we doing right now?
We're
critiquing critics.
Everybody's got an opinion.
Everybody's got an opinion.
And, nothing you can do about it.
Not a goddamn thing.
However, the guys that get paid about it, they're wrong in this point.
Yeah, they're wrong at this point. So there, to anybody who bitched and complained about some of the things we may have said in the last one, there you go. You see, we don't agree with the critics all the time.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I think out of all these ones, I'm the most offended by what they're saying about Kamikaze.
Definitely. Any of those articles that were written, they were in fucking diapers in the 90s and just couldn't appreciate the real Slim Shady.
Right. Exactly.
Because honestly, I remember where I fucking was the first time I heard that song.
So was I. I still go back and listen to old school Eminem every once in a while.
Dude, I listened to the real Slim Shady earlier today, only because it was after I was listening to Kamikaze and it played through. And so Spotify did its thing.
Exactly. So yeah, I mean, like, I think that's just gonna do it for us though on this whole podcast. So I mean, like, we're clearly in disagreement within the fans on everything. I mean, if you could, what would you give Kamikaze on a scale of 1 to 10?
Compared to other rap albums?
No, just compare it on its own.
On its own, I'd give it a solid 8.5, 9.
Yeah, so would I. I mean, Boondock Saints, I think I would give it more like a 7.5. Van Wilder, it's been a while since I've seen the movie. but I would probably end up giving it like a 7 or something like that.
Yeah, Van Wilder still holds up at a 7 to 8 if you're into that kind of comedy still.
It's kind of comedy that we don't see too often anymore.
Unfortunately.
I know. Damn you, PC police!
Right.
Woo-woo!
Right. Like the last movie we got that was similar to Van Wilder, in my opinion, was Zack and Mary Make a Porno.
Yes, and thank you for calling it Make a Porno, because I refuse to just call it Zack and Mary.
Me too. It was Zack and Mary Make a Porno.
Yeah, right?
And it was fucking fantastic.
It was pretty good. I know. How about we call this movie Revenge of the Shit? I'm like, oh, yeah, just leave it to Kevin Smith to make a Star Wars reference in the movie.
Yep.
All right, I think that's going to do it for us now. Thanks for tuning in, Meg, and thanks for listening, everybody back at home. Please be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and be sure to tune in next time when we talk about God knows what, because I haven't planned that far ahead yet. All right, Meg, thanks again for being on. And be sure to follow me on Twitter.
For having me.
And be sure to follow me on Twitter and Facebook. And before we leave, I have a show coming up on October 10th at the Van Nuys Comedy Club in Van Nuys. I'll send out flyers and posters about that. It's a little ways away, but it's going to be on October 10th. Hope any of you can come out to make it. So please be sure to come out and enjoy the show. Once again, thanks everybody for listening. Meg, thanks as always for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
All right, everybody. And remember, I'm on Kyle Daley Comedy for both Twitter and Instagram. And Meg, you are on
Twitter, Angry Pizza Gay.
All righty. All right, everybody. Bye.